Delighted to hear it. Thank you.
It seems like it's way more cheap while it works even better sometimes. So the question is, will it stay staying cheap, or are you just planning to raise prices at some point, or
We're not. I'm actually not on top of the pricing thing. I don't expect that we will raise prices, however, because there are fundamentally a couple of trends. One is just that these, there's just optimizations and things around inference that are just constantly, like, all the time. So I have this 10% idea, this 20% idea, and like month after month that adds up. I think our TPUs are actually pretty damn good at inferencing, not dissing the GPUs, but for certain inference workloads, they're just configured really nicely. And the other big effect is actually we're able to make smaller models more and more effective just with new generations, just whatever architectural changes, training changes, all kinds of things like that. So the models are getting more powerful even at the same time of size. So I would not expect prices to go up. Yes, ma'am.
What are your predictions for how AI is going to impact healthcare and biotech, and something to excited about?
Oh, AI, healthcare, and biotech. Well, I think there are a couple very different ways. On the biotech side, people look at things like AlphaFold and things like that, just like understanding the fundamental mechanics of life. And I think you'll see AI do more and more of that, whether it's actual physical molecule kind of bonding things, or reading and summarizing journal articles, things like that. I also think for patients, and this is kind of a tough area, honestly, because we're definitely not prepared for our just AIs, like, go ahead, ask any question, like we're not, AIs make mistakes and things like that. But I think there is a future if you can overcome those kinds of issues where an AI can much more deeply spend time on the individual person and their history and all their scans, maybe mediated by a doctor or something, but actually give you just better diagnoses, better recommendations, things like that. Yes.
Are you focusing on any other non-transformer architectures for like reasoning, planning, or any of to get better?
Okay, questions. Are we focusing on any non-transformer architectures? I think there's like so many sort of variations, but I guess most people would argue are still kind of transformer based. I'm sure somebody in the company who speaks more to it would be looking, but as much progress as transformers have made over the last 6, 7, 8 years, I guess. There's nothing to say there's not going to be some new revolutionary architecture. And it's also possible that just, incremental changes, for example, sparsity and things like that, that are still kind of the same transformer, also bring revolution. So, I don't have a magic answer.
Is there some bottleneck for like reasoning kind of questions?
Is there a bottleneck in transformers? Yeah. There's been lots of theoretical work showing the limitations of transformers, and we can't do this kind of thing, this many layers and things like that. I don't know how to extrapolate that to like contemporary transformers that usually don't meet the assumptions of the theoretical works. So it may not apply, but I'd probably hedge my bets and try other architectures, all else being equal. How many more do you want me to do?
This is other topic, but a while ago Google had the Google Glass, but now Apple has Vision Pro. I think Google Glass may be a little bit early. Would you consider give that another shot?
I feel like I messed up Google Glass. No, but I feel like I made some bad decisions. It was for sure early in two senses of the word. Maybe early in the overall evolution of technology, but also I think in hindsight I tried to push it as a product when it itself was sort of more of a prototype, and I should have set those expectations around it. And I personally didn't know much about sort of consumer hardware supply chains back then. Anyway, a bunch of things I wish I'd done differently. But I personally am still a fan of kind of the lightweight, kind of minimal display that offered that you could just like wear all day versus the big heavy things that we have today. That's my personal preference. But the Apple Vision and the Oculuses, for the matter, they're very impressive. Like having played with them, I'm just impressed with what you can have in front of your screen. But that wasn't what I was personally going for kind of back then. Yes, ma'am.
So do you see Gemini expanding capabilities into like 3D kind of down the line of spatial computing in general, or a simulation of the world in general of that, and especially beyond Google Glass, Google already have several products that's really in the area, right? Like Google Maps, Street View, AR Core, all of that. Do you see all of those have some synergies between them?
Well, it's a good question. To be honest, I haven't thought about it, but now that you say it, there's no reason we couldn't. Put in more sort of it's kind of another mode, 3D data. So probably something interesting would happen. I don't see why you wouldn't try to put that into a model that's already got all the smarts of the text model. Now can turn on something else too. And by the way, maybe somebody's doing it at Gemini. I don't know. Oh yes, she says that. That's because I'm not privy to it or I forgot about it. Doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay, yes, question about that. Sorry.
Are you optimistic that we'll be able to rein in text generating models' ability to hallucinate? And what do you think about the ethical issue of potentially spreading misinformation online?
Yeah, the hallucination thing is a big problem right now. No question about it. We have made them hallucinate less and less over time. But I would definitely be excited to see a breakthrough that brings it to near zero. I don't, that's not, you can't just count on breakthroughs. So I think we're going to keep going the incremental kinds of things that we do to just bring all the hallucinations down over time. Like I said, I think breakthrough would be good. Misinformation, misinformation is a complicated issue, I think. Obviously you don't want your AI bots to be just making stuff up, but they can also be kind of tricked into, there's a lot of, complicated political issues in terms of what different people consider misinformation versus not. And it gets into kind of a broad social debate. I suppose another thing you could consider is about them sort of deliberately generating misinformation on behalf of another actor. From that point of view, unfortunately, it's very easy to make a lousy AI. Like one that hallucinates a lot. And you can take, any open source text model and probably tweak it to generate misinformation of all kinds. And if you're not concerned about, the accuracy, it's just kind of an easy thing to do. So I don't know. I guess now I think about it. Detecting AI generated content is an important field and something that we work on and so forth, so you at least can maybe tell if something coming at you is AI generated. Yeah.
Alexandra, so the CEO of NVIDIA said that basically the future of writing code as a career is dead. What is your take on that? And how do you think it could potentially protect our careers as engineers?
Okay, yeah, I saw Jensen say that. It's we don't know where the future of AI is going broadly. I would we don't know, it seems to help across a range of many careers, whether it's graphic artists or customer support or doctors or executives or, what have you. I mean, so I don't know that I would be like singling out programming in particular. It's actually probably one of the more challenging tasks for an LLM today. But if you're talking about for decades in the future, what should you be kind of preparing for and so forth? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, the AI could get quite good at programming, but you can say that about kind of any field of human endeavor. So I guess I probably wouldn't have singled that out as like saying don't study specifically programming. I don't know if that's an answer. Okay, hand the back.
If a lot of people start using these agents to write code, I'm wondering how that's going to impact IT security. You could argue that the code might become worse or less checked for certain issues, or you could argue that we get better at writing test suites which cover all the cases. What are your opinions on this? Is maybe for the average programmer IT security the way to go because the code's going to be written, but someone still needs to check it's working.
Oh, wow, you guys are all trying to choose careers based on the future. I don't know, I think you should use a fortune teller for that general line of questions. But I do think that using an AI today to write, let's say, unit tests is pretty straightforward. That's the kind of thing the AI does really quite well. So I guess my hope is that AI will make code more secure, not less secure. I mean, it's usually, insecurity is to some extent the effect of people being lazy, and the one thing that AI is kind of good at is not being lazy. So if I had to bet, I would say there's probably a net benefit to security with AI. But I wouldn't discourage you from pursuing a career in IT security based on that. I think that's premature. Okay, question back there.
Hey, do you want to build AGI?
Do I want to? Yeah. I mean, I think it's different people mean different things about that. But to me, the reasoning aspects are really exciting and amazing. And I kind of came out of retirement just because of the trajectory of AI is so exciting. And as computer scientists, just seeing what these models can do year after year is astonishing. So, yes.
Any efforts on humanoid robotics or these? Because there was so much progress in Google X in 2015-16.
Oh, humanoid robotics. We've done a lot of humanoid robotics over the years and sort of acquired or sold a bunch of companies in humanoid robotics. And now there are there are quite a few companies doing humanoid robotics, and internally we still have groups that work on robotics in varying forms. So what are my thoughts about that? I don't know, in general, I worked on X prior to this sort of new AI wave, and there the focus was more hardware projects, for sure. But honestly, I guess I found the hard way, open intended. Hardware is much more difficult, kind of on a technical basis, on a business basis, in every way. So I'm not discouraging people from doing it. We need people for sure to do it. At the same time, while the software and the AIs are getting so much faster at such a high rate, I guess to me that feels like that's kind of the rocket ship. And I feel like if I get distracted in a way by making hardware for today's AIs, that might not be the best of use of times compared to what is the next kind of level of AI to be able to support, and for that matter, will it design a robot for me? That's my personal. There are a bunch of people at Google now who work on hardware. Yes?
So, considering advertising is really important for Google, what's your take on how advertising will be disrupted with everything that happens to
Yeah. The question about advertising. Yeah, of all people, am not too terribly concerned about business model shifts. I mean, I think it's a little bit, I think it's wonderful that we've been now for 25 years or whatever, able to bring just world-class information search for free to everyone, and that's supported by advertising, which in my mind is great. It's great for the world, kid in Africa has just as much access to basic information as the President of the United States or what have you. So that's good. At the same time, I expect business models are going to evolve over time. And maybe it'll still be advertising because whatever the advertising kind of works better, the AI is able to tailor it better, you like it. But even if it happens to move to, now we have Gemini Advanced, other companies have their paid models. I think the fundamental issue is that you're delivering a huge amount of value. Displacing all the mental effort that would have been required to take the place of that AI, whether in your time or labor or what have you, is enormous. And the same thing was true in search. So I personally feel as long as there's huge value being generated, we'll figure out the business models. Yeah.
Speaking of which, does Chrome's third-party cookie deprecation give Google any advantage in like training future models or personalized models?
Chrome's third-party cookie. I'm gonna be embarrassed as how naive I am about the detail. I mean, I vaguely am aware of that stuff. I can't think of how those things interact.
I'm not that guy, so.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, maybe you should answer the question. How many more do you want?
Two more.
Okay, 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
Where do you see Google search going?
Where do I see Google search going? Well, it's a super exciting time for search because your ability to answer questions with AI is just so much greater. I think the bigger opportunity is in situations where your recall limited. Or so, like you might ask a very specialized question, or it's related to your own personal situation in a way that nobody out there, on the internet has already written about. For the questions that a million people have written about already, thought deeply about, it's probably not a big deal. But the things that are very specific to what you might care about right now in a particular way, that's a huge opportunity. And you can imagine all kinds of products and UIs, different ways to deliver that. But basically, AI is an enabler, just doing a much better job in that case. Okay, last question. Okay, who's going to get the last question? Is it a good one? Who's got a good one in the back? You have to be prompted. Are you sure? Okay.
Robotics has this subsidiary readily and also has a company like 23 and so how AI is helping to us with for multimodal
Sorry, for more what? Again?
Mortality.
Mortality. Oh. Immortality. Oh, okay. Immortality. Right. Important distinction there. Look, I'm probably not as well versed as all of you are, to be honest, but I've definitely seen the kind of the molecular AI make huge amounts of progress. You could imagine that there would also be a lot of progress, maybe I haven't seen yet, on the epidemiology side of things, to just be able to get kind of, more honest, better controlled, a kind of broader understanding of what's happening to people's health around the world. But yeah, okay, I'll give you a good answer on the last one. I don't have like a really brilliant immortality key just by just like that. But it's the kind of field that for sure benefits from AI, whether you're a researcher or I want it to just summarize articles to me, step one. But in the future, I would expect the AI would actually give you novel hypotheses to test. It does that today with the AlphaFolds of the world, but maybe in more complex systems than just molecules. Okay.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you.